I hope you guys had the most beautiful holiday week. I had like such a good time. We hosted Kenny's family and had like a great time with them, and then they left on Friday. And Friday, I got to take Bennett to spend time with my best friend and her kiddos, which was so fun. And she had a new baby, so I got to meet the baby. We were supposed to go meet the baby when the hurricane came, and so it was like beautiful to finally get to do that. And then we had like just such a good family weekend. Like my cup is so full. I'm in such a vibe today. I was talking about the subway stories too. I'm in such a gratitude energy. Um, we just had the best time. So anyway, I hope you guys had a beautiful, beautiful holiday too. I'm excited to chat with y'all about this today. I feel like let me just pull back up. Like this is such a unsexy yet important topic. So excited to get into it. I'm gonna like talk a lot of things. I'll probably also use a lot of my own examples as specifics because I think it's really helpful to see that. But if you're here, say hi. Before I forget, giveaway today is a $100 gift card. So any comment, hi, whatever, you guys know the drill, just for showing up and being here and listening to me talk. You're entered to win a $100 gift card. So let's get into it. And obviously, if y'all have questions about this as we go, let me know. Happy to dive into anything with you guys. Hey, Lauren, good to see you. Hey, Crystal. If you guys have any questions as we dive in, let me know specifics. I also had a question for you guys. I keep debating this in my head over and over and over. And so I was going to ask y'all, hey, Denise, welcome. I'm so happy it's your first live. Okay. Well, you might be great to answer this then too, Denise. But I keep debating on this in my head and I keep considering um, grabbing some of these live streams and putting them on a private podcast feed. I hesitate to do that for a lot of reasons that I do not need to talk about at this given moment, since this is not what this live stream is about. But can y'all tell me, like, do you still really like the format? Or you like that would be so helpful, or like I would come to both? If you have any feedback, let me know because I'd be really curious about that because I keep going back and forth on it in my head. Okay. But anyway, I wasn't even gonna ask that today, it just kind of popped into my head. But regardless, let me know if you have thoughts on that. And we will get into conversion rates. So, or optimization rather. So like the first thing I want to kind of just like level set is, why does this matter? So many people just think traffic is the answer to everything. And I think that that's a really, really dangerous way to think about business. Because sometimes it is. Sometimes traffic is truly, truly the answer, but it's not always the answer. And I think it can become the thing that burns people out the most in business, is because they constantly think it's the only answer. And so instead of doing like really smart tweaks and optimizations, hey Emma, good to see you. Okay, ideal, good to know. Instead of doing like really strategic tweaks and optimizations, they're just trying to push more and more traffic through something, which can, one, be a challenge to do and take a lot of work. But two, if you don't have a process, a funnel, whatever you want to call it, that's working really well, just putting more in it isn't helpful. So leaky bucket is like typically the analogy people use when they're talking about this. So it's like, if you just keep pouring more water into a leaky bucket, it doesn't matter. Like, you can pour all the water you want in there and the bucket is still going to leak. You're still going to end up with not enough water in it. And so if that is representing your sales funnel, your sales process, again, however we want to frame this, right? And you keep pouring a bunch of leads in it, but there's holes in your bucket and they're flying out the sides of it, it doesn't matter, right? So that's why when we talk about like optimization, it's not just throw more water in the bucket. It's like, make sure your bucket is patched up enough to hold all of that, so that when you put water in the bucket, it's actually meaningful. It's actually going to stay in there. It's actually contributing to it filling up, right? Hey, Heather. Hey, Michelle. So I just want to kind of like level set with that because I feel like sometimes it can be like, why does this matter so much? And the reason it matters is because you don't want to waste that much effort, right? And you don't want to waste the leads either. Like to keep adding leads to something that's not working is like churn and burn. You're just like losing the people for all the work you're doing. So like we don't want you doing a ton of work that isn't worth it and isn't paying off. Like that's not helpful to anybody. And again, it's like how we burn out in business. So now the next thing you have to know is you have to even know what your funnel is. I keep saying funnel or sales process because like I think it depends on how someone wants to look at it. But I see so often that when we start talking about optimization, it's hard for a lot of people because they don't even fully know what their process is. And I mean like in detail. So let me give you some examples. Like someone, say you have a course you're selling. Someone finds you on Instagram. From there, they opt into something that you're doing, right? So now we have a landing page that they're landing on. Then we have them opting in. Now they're getting emails from you. So we're talking open rates, we're talking click rates. Then we're sending them to a sales page. We're talking sales page views. Then we're asking them to check out. We're talking checkout page views, right? And we're asking them to purchase. We're talking about how many people purchased. I don't know how many I just named, but I just named a lot of steps. Like I named how many people are going to a landing page. I named landing page conversion rates. I named email open and click-through rates. I named sales page views, checkout page views, conversion rates. Like there are so many places, even just to take someone from social to a course purchase. Think of all of the things, right? I think I counted 6 or whatever, but there might even be more than that, depending on your setup, your process, whatever. At least 6 pieces of things that you're going to want to look at in that whole process. And you have to know what those are, right? Like you have to know, oh yeah, they have to go here. They have to take this step. This is the next thing. This is the next thing. It doesn't mean they have to open every email or something, but you want to know what you're shooting for. Like you want to know, like, what is the process I'm trying to optimize for? I think people get really frustrated sometimes around this conversation because they're trying to optimize without like truly understanding like the layout and the process that they're actually optimizing for. Is like, I want this to go well, 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 right? And we want to walk through that and really see it performing because again, if not, you can put all the leads you want through that. But if the landing page doesn't convert, you're fucked on the rest. You know what I mean? Or like even if like you get them to your sales page, but your sales page is absolutely tanking your conversion rates, it's still not worth it. Like it's still not worth all those leads you're sending in, right? Hi, Alyssa. Lauren said my type A brain is fully here for the funnels and conversions conversations. Christmas has come early. Oh my gosh, I love you. That's so great. I need more of that energy. I feel like every time I talk about this, people are like, oh, boring. I need like Christmas has come early energy, Lauren. Thank you. But anyway, like I would just, if it were me, I would just like write that out in my business. Like this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. Map it out, write it out, however your brain thinks about that. Like you should truly know what that is in your business because if you don't, you're not going to be able to actually study your data. You're not actually going to be able to optimize for conversion rates, right? You're going to feel like, why is this not working? What is going wrong? But you can't actually track in the process what is going wrong. It's as simple as that, right? So we have to know that. Okay, so next step is figure out like where the breakdowns are happening. So when we say leaky bucket, like let's start looking at those. Here to bring the hype. Yes, perfect. Bring the strategy hype. Okay, so when we look at leaky bucket, we want to figure out where those are. This often entails knowing either like standard industry conversion rates and or your own personal standard, right? At a Lit Up Life, right? I just know like what my own standards are typically, and go off those. For a lot of clients, if we're doing like a webinar funnel, I really try to go off of like industry standards because sometimes, like I think people are always surprised that they're often low. And so, like for example, like if you're converting a total funnel at like 3%, 1 to 3%, that would be good. A lot of people are like, wait, what? And they don't know that. And so they keep trying for like 30% or something and making themselves crazy. So you do want to have some set standards here. You do kind of want to know like, oh, like whatever. I would love for, my landing page to be converting at X. How am I measuring up against that? Or even like just know your typical conversion rate. Like maybe your typical conversion rate is always around 40%. Like, are you hitting that? Like, what does that look like? Can you see that happen? Again, it's just helpful to have these barometers to know where the bucket is leaking. Process swim lanes are my love language here for this conversation. Thank you, Karina. I'm so happy you're here. Okay, so start knowing like, what do we want these steps to be? So if you laid out that, 6-stage process, you'd want to go back through that. What do I want to shoot for my landing page to convert at? What do I want to shoot for my email open rates to be? What about click rates? What about sales page views? What about checkout views? What about like total conversion? Like have barometers there that you're shooting for. It's so, so important to do that because if not, again, sometimes we're like shooting for like, a totally unrealistic number. Like 50% of the people that come to your sales page are probably not going to buy. No, that's like bad news, but you know what I mean? If you're shooting for that, you're always going to be optimizing for the wrong thing because maybe traffic is what you just have to send if you have a sales page converting at 10% or something, right? So you do want to know some of these barometers. Hey, Luz, good to see you. So you do want to know some of these barometers and be able to set that up. So imagine having that drawn out. Here are my points, like, in the process. Here's what I'm shooting for each of those. Amazing. I have those drawn out. Now, what are my goals around this, or where am I not hitting that? Right? Okay, my goal for landing page conversions is 40%. Mine right now is converting at 20. Let me fix that before I fix fucking anything else. Like that isn't where it needs to be. What can I do to test and optimize here? And really kind of like identify the low hanging fruit is like a good way to think about that. Is like, what's an easy fix here? Excuse me, like what would make a really huge difference? You can like do the math on this. Like, oh, okay, if we got X amount more people opting in, how many more sales would that have gotten me? Oh, interesting. Okay, that's worth it. Like you can literally do the math and just know that. Hey Jess, here for this combo. Good, good. Love my conversion rate girlies. But like you can just do the math on that. Like it's really not hard. It takes a minute, but it's not hard. You can even ask ChatGPT to do the math on that. ChatGPT, this is what's happening right now. If like I got my landing page converting at 40% instead of 20%, how much more money would I have made? Like you can literally do this and know this. And try to do, well, there's two ways to look at it. Sometimes you can do like the easiest lift thing first, where you're like, oh, that could be a little better and I could probably make a very small tweak. Or sometimes you want to do the one that would lead to the biggest outcome, i.e. like if you do the math and you're like, oh, what typically, I've done math on this in like 100 ways for like, a ton of different clients. And what almost always creates the biggest like output or return monetarily is if you can optimize your checkout page. That's typically what provides like the biggest ROI. And so a lot of times you may want to start with that, right? Like you're like, well, that's where like the most money is being left on the table. So let me put my energy there. But again, sometimes you could be like lowest hanging fruit as I could do. Like I noticed that like this email is driving a ton of traffic to this page. Could I just optimize this page to match that messaging a little bit more? Like if that's the easiest lift, you could start there too. It kind of depends. I typically like to start with the thing that produces the most return because that's how my brain thinks. But again, sometimes it's easier to just be like, let me start with the small thing and build up from there. So you get to decide what feels good there, but then you definitely want to start like taking action on that. Little things sometimes make a really, really fucking big difference. Like one of my clients, literally all we did was add a couple more CTAs to her sales page and change button colors. And her conversion rate went up by, I think, at least 10%. That's kind of crazy. Um, so start with small stuff too. Like if you think optimizing means rewrite your entire sales page, you've lost the plot, right? If you think optimizing, like as a starting point, right? If you think optimizing means redesigning your entire funnel, like that is not what we're talking about here. Optimizing means small tweak, test, right? Like, so on her sales page, we're like, the copy is really good. We want to get more people clicking through. Should we just give them more chances to click through and make it more noticeable? Her page was like really beautifully designed, but the buttons just like weren't standing out at all. So it was like, let's try it before we go rework every other thing imaginable. Let's try this. So we try it, it works. Okay, good. Like that was it. And that's like, I'm like very much of this mindset. I don't know that everyone is that's talking about like conversion rate optimization, but I am such a if it's not broke, don't fix it girl. Like when my clients come to me and they're like, yeah, I mean, this is converting really well, but I was thinking of adding this. I'm like, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it. That is always my energy. Like if you know this is converting really, really well, don't fucking touch it. It's almost always my energy toward that. Like, and that's where people get really screwed in a lot of this is they're touching so much all at once, all the time, that it's so hard to even know what's actually working. And then even when things are working, you're breaking them, right? So small tweaks are the move. And that's frustrating as fuck because it takes patience and it takes believing that the small things matter. It's such a mindset thing, right? Like that client, for example, when I said to her, like, let's just put more CTs and button colors, she was kind of like, Lace, I would like to make more sales. And I was like, I know, I hear you, just try it. Luckily, she's amazing and very smart and strategic and was like, fine, I hear you. But like she had to get her brain on board with like, this could make that big of a difference. And it's hard to do that sometimes. Like our brains are like, it's so much harder than that. It's so much more complicated than that. Do more, do more, do more. Right. But that's why I think a lot of people don't get to the point where they have a funnel that's like really working well for them or that they love because they're breaking so much all the time. They're redoing so much all the time. It's so hard to see like, where is that working? And even when it's working good, our brains will be like, you know what could make it work even better? Redo your whole web. I shit you not. A client did this to me recently. Her webinar is crushing. She literally one time live got a 20% live conversion rate. That is insane. And she was like, I think I want to redo my webinar. I was like, I will literally kill you. I'm kidding. I probably did say that though, actually, but I typically don't. Well, I'm going to say I typically don't threaten violence as a coach, but Sabrina will disagree with me. But um, this is what I mean though, is like the temptation is so strong sometimes to be like, let me just, but if you're like, if you have a webinar that's live converting at 20%, like I'm literally like back away, don't touch any of it, go fix everything else around that. And sometimes then that is a traffic thing. Sometimes it's like, wow, this whole funnel is working so well. Let's just get more traffic into it. But that would be like the last thing for me, not the first thing. Like I would want to make sure most of it was working really, really well before I was trying to like, shoot traffic through the roof because why? I don't want to lose a bunch of shit out of the bucket. You know what I mean? Karina said I'm a shook. I've rewritten the entire copy and possibly cry. No, I hear you. It's so hard and it's so tempting. Lauren said, love the advice if it's the simple things absolutely seem not to be true, right? And it's so hard for our brains to believe it. It really is. Even my brain on the 10% one, when her sales page went up 10% from that, I was like, yeah, like I figured that would help. I didn't 10% figure it would help. It's wild sometimes. It really is. So anyway, figure that out. Test, adjust. Like really feel like this is where patience and perseverance and resilience really comes in the process. It's super fucking hard to test and adjust. It's not comfortable. It takes time. It really, really, really does. Like, most of my clients, if they come to me and they're like, I want to like really get a great funnel working. And I like, will be very honest. I'm like 6 months to a year. Nobody wants to hear that. And I don't mean like a funnel you can make money off of, but I mean a funnel where you're like, I can pop some money into ads and I know like X income is coming out on the other side of that, like I can think of one client who we've been doing that, and it's like she's probably making like 30K-ish a month from her funnel now. It took almost a year to get there because it was like test, optimize, test, optimize, test, optimize. But like in a year to be able to say like, oh, okay, I know this can spit out like 30K for me a month, that's really good. And I think that like, obviously it can be much more, it can be much less. But I feel like people do not want to hear that. So sorry. But it does, it takes time, but also a year is nothing on that front, but it really, really is a process, and it's a process that's never over. But it is a process that gets much easier over time. Like if you've optimized most of your funnels, you're making little tweaks here and there, it's easier and easier. But at the beginning, it's really intensive in terms of like tracking all of this, et cetera. Another thing in terms of optimization, I think is so big, and I think where we see this in our industry so much this year is like consumer behavior changes. It changes regularly. And so even if you are super optimized, how people are consuming, what they're liking, what they're interested in is going to change as well. You have to be paying attention to that and willing to change with that. Like you have to be on top of and dialed into like the customer psychology piece. I think so many people have struggled in our industry so much in the recent year or so because I think consumer behavior has changed pretty significantly, and a lot of people are very resistant to getting on board with that or following that. It's like, well, this is what's always worked. This is what's always worked. It's funny. I had a meeting with my team recently, and I said to them, if we are ever saying we do this because it's what we've always done, I want you to see that as a huge fucking red flag. Like if we don't have a really, really good reason we're actively doing something, it is a red flag, right? And that's so true in your marketing. If you're going, well, I speak to this point because it's what we have always spoken to, waving red flag, right? If you're like, I speak to this point because I know actively right now, this is what's performing. This is what's coming up for my clients. This is what I'm having conversations about. This is what I'm hearing. This is how things have shifted. Like that's what we have to be saying. I think in terms of optimization, that's such an important piece of the conversation is going, people shift, consumer behavior shifts, our needs, our desires, what we like consuming, what we're paying attention to changes. The willingness to change with that and be on top of that is literally everything in this. It doesn't mean you have to like massively swing your message, but like, that just this like little example I'll give where, so often what we're taught and what we've learned is the frame is like, always make it about your client. Everything should be about your client. Like how you can get this, 5 steps you can take to this, blah, 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 blah. That is so much less what consumers want right now. That's performing less on almost every front, right? What's performing better is like 5 steps I'm taking, 4 things I'm doing, like much more of that personal lens, much more of that, like, like I'm in this too. I'm sharing with you. I'm not just like a guru on a pedestal. So if you weren't changing with that and weren't optimizing with that, you are going to experience a dip in your conversion rates because that's what like is working, or that's what like consumers have shifted to desiring, and we need to match that. So that's another big piece is like when you think of optimization, you have to think about like customer psychology behind it and how that changes, and be willing to shift with it. Again, it doesn't mean like your whole messaging has to change or anything like that, but I think it does mean like we have to pay attention to like, what are people liking from us? What are they saying? What are they telling us? What are they asking us about? What is our stuff that's performing best? Oh, interesting. Like that content, like kills it for me the most. Is that reflected on my sales page? You know, is this conversation that's always popping on social actually something that I've infused into my emails or my funnel? Is it something that's on my course page now? Oh, interesting. It's not. What would it look like to add that? Like those are the little things that we can pay attention to and that we want to be on top of, because shit changes. And uh, like, not that you have to like jump on board every single shift. I'm certainly often, late to the party on that personally at a lot of life. But you also don't want to like totally opt out of them either, because again, it's usually not about changing your whole message. It's the difference between like, whatever, like your meal plan and my meal plan. And like, like you might have the same product, but you were framing it as like, here's your meal plan. And now you're framing it as like, steal my meal plan. Right. And it's just performing better. It's just optimized because that's what consumers are more interested in right now. Right. It's that simple. So that's another piece. Let me see. I think I wrote a couple other notes. Let me see. Yeah, other things that matter that I'll just mention here on this front. I actually just had a client go through this. Is like really small things like broken links or your pages loading really slowly. You would be so surprised at how easy it is for someone to talk themselves out of something. I'm sure with Black Friday having just happened, we can all identify with this in some way of like, if there is any barrier in the process, it's so easy to just opt out. I like almost bought this thing that I was targeted with on an Instagram ad, and it was just like not accepting my like whatever that is, like shop pay thing or whatever. And I was like, I can't be fucked, honestly. And I didn't buy the thing. And I probably won't ever go back and get it because like I just couldn't be bothered. And so that's something really important to like test and remember is like, okay, are all of our links actually working? I know at Datable one time we had an issue where like we were expecting like, a certain amount of like opt-ins or whatever. And when we weren't seeing them, we were like, something obviously has to be broken. What happened? We were able to go, oh, this link is broken. We have to fix it. That kind of stuff. Like paying attention to that is really helpful. Page loading, et cetera. If I go to a page and it's taking a really long time for it to load, I'm killing my conversion rate. And I think it's so easy to be like, oh, if someone really wants it, they'll wait for a minute. If someone really wants it, they'll message me about the broken link. If someone that is not consumer behavior. If there is a barrier when they are like ready to make a move, you are often losing the sale. So in terms of like optimization and stuff like that, that stuff you don't want to just write off. It's really stuff you want to look at. Like, is this an easy experience? Is it simple to like do these things to buy, etc. And then also like I've talked about this a ton, but I will just mention it here too, is like, are you building trust? Um, I think that that is such a big part in all of this as well. Like you can get a ton of people to your sales page, but if they don't trust you, are they really buying from you? You can get a ton of people to your sales page, but if they don't feel that connection and that relationship with you, they're just going to leave, right? You know what I mean? Like we want to feel trust. We want to feel like this is a safe investment. This is a safe person. And so being able to make sure you're infusing that, I think is so important more than ever, especially in our industry now where I think trust has been broken so many times. Like, do you have really great testimonials? Are you showcasing them? Do your people feel like they know you? Can they reach out to you? Can they ask you a question? Do they have a relationship with you? Like, are you building trust in these like really measurable, consistent ways with social proof, audience connection, that kind of stuff? That is going to go such a long way in making a funnel perform better. So yes, we can talk about like, what's your sales page converting at? But there's also these unseen elements of like, well, it's going to convert better if people really trust you. It's going to convert better, excuse me, if they've already built a relationship with you and felt nurtured by you before they even land on the sales page, right? So yes, it's like right out the funnel and track the steps, but we also have to know that there are like these other pieces that can be at play where it's like, okay, if so many people are coming here, but they're not converting, it's not always just what's on the sales page. Sometimes it's like what led up to getting them there too. So remember that as well, because I think that's an important piece that's easy to overlook sometimes too. Um, what else? I was just going to use even a couple of personal examples. Obviously, my business is really, really different in how it's structured, but I also thought that that could be helpful. I should have pulled it up. Um, Yeah, let me just go off of this. Okay, this is fine. So I have a dashboard that will show me like how many people landed on our waitlist page, how many people actually like got, what is it? Let me look, sorry, I have to keep switching back and forth between this. How many people got to our sales page? How many people went to like I want to be on the waitlist page? How many people actually opted in? Right. And so I can see that. So I'm looking at it from November and I know that that page converts at 12%. So 12% of the people that land on that page will become like waitlist people. And I also happen to know that from the waitlist perspective, anytime we like open slots, typically 10 to 20% of the people on the wait list apply for that spot at any one time. Obviously, there's like a lot of reasons, like they're working with another coach, it's not the right time. Like, I mean, we're just like, hi, we have a spot, come on down, so like of everyone on the wait list, 10 to 20% convert at any time. So if I know 12% of the people that land on this page convert, and then I know 10 to 20% will apply at any given time, I can just start reverse engineering what I want to happen there. Obviously, there's nothing specific I really need to have happen there at this moment because we have like a full wait list. But let's say I was like, I want to know that I have at least 10 new like application people coming in per month. So, okay, so 10 is like what I want that to be. So if I know that the wait list typically converts at 10 to 20%, let's just take 15. So that means I need 150 people. Sorry. Yeah. Opting in per month. Okay. If I know, is that right? Times. No, that's not right. I shouldn't have done this live. Whatever. Let's use easy math. Say I want 15 and I know it's like 15%, right? Then 100 is the number I'm searching for here. And I know that page converts at 12%, right? So, I'm not doing this math right. This is so hard for me when I'm live. I apologize. I like need to write these things out. You get my point. Let's just use easy math. Say 100 people land on that page per month. Say 12 opt in, and say I know that 10 to 20% are going to be applicants. Okay, great. Then that means from 12, let's say it's 20%, right? Like 2.5 people. So if I want 2.5, let's say 2. If I want 2 new applications a month, I need 100 people to hit the waitlist page. That's easy, right? I think we usually get, I don't know, 3 or 4 times that. I don't even really promote it that much. So I can go, okay, traffic could help. But the reason I don't even promote it that much is because I don't need that many more people on there, if that makes sense, right? Like I don't necessarily want to be like, I need 10 more applications a month, because I don't. But like you see my point. I can reverse engineer this every time. Say I was like, oh, I know I'm going to take on several new clients at this point, and I really want to do a push for that. I know, okay, well then how many new applicants do I want? How many people do I need to get to see this page? And like, how can I then go just promote it and talk about it more and put it out there more and send more traffic to it? That in that case, traffic works and I can reverse engineer what traffic I'm hoping to get. Does that make sense? Sorry that my math was like really off. That was not something I should have done live, but you get me. It's not that hard once you see how it works and once you see where you need to fix things, right? Would love to know if there's anything you do to track or measure those more intangible pieces, e.g. a good number of my clients come from recommendations or just from finding me from a group and connecting, and this can be kind of hard to track or measure or improve past post testimonials and results more to build more trust. Lauren, what I would be interested in then is using UTM tracking. I don't know if that's something you've done, but UTM tracking can tell you like traffic coming from a specific thing. So for example, if you were posting testimonials and results more and then using a UTM link with that, you could see like, oh, every time I post this person's testimonial, I almost always get sales calls booked. Or every time I share this type of messaging, I see a ton of clicks to my sales page, whatever. So I would go deeper with UTMs there personally, because I think that would be really, really helpful to see like, oh, this specific thing is what's converting. And then you can really like pull more from that, more information. Like, oh, if it's always this one testimonial, like, great, that should be like highlighted front and center on the sales page, or that should, like, I actually have another testimonial that's really similar to that I rarely share. Like, it just is going to inform next steps. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I haven't used UTM links. Definitely look into that. I think that could be really, really helpful here when you're trying to like drill down for sure. So anyway, I hope that helps. Like, this really is such an easy way to make business more neutral. It's like, oh, I need to fix this hole. I need to add this traffic. I need to whatever. And it just feels like a numbers game sometimes. Again, not that there's not nuance here, there's more to do, but like, it's just so valuable and so important to be like, okay, how can I just see what's working instead of guessing? Because it's always so easy to guess. Like, if you're someone who tends to have like enoughness stuff, or like you worry that people don't think you're enough or don't like you, you're almost always gonna like make that the thing. You're gonna be like, no one even is like really liking me. They're not even like going to the sales page. I guess like I just need to figure out how to get more people to like me. Like your brain will just tell you these stories. Then if you look at the data and you're like, wait, shit, a ton of people seem to like me and go to the sales page and even get to check out, but something is stopping them from buying. Oh, let me look at that, right? You get my point. Like, it's just easy for our own mindset shit to get in the way. And when you really get strategic about this, of like, there are just these basic steps I want people to follow. And there are places where they deviate from these steps or they fall off these steps. How can I make that better instead of overly personalizing it? It just gets so much easier. So if you can do that for next year, you're going to be in such a great place, from a mindset perspective and from like a literal strategy perspective. It's just so much easier to know, like, this is what I need to do next. This is what I need to fix. This is where I should spend my time. An example for me is like, I spent all of last year being like, let me really focus on traffic and reach, because like our funnel is converting great. Like there's nothing for me to optimize in terms of like page views or I mean, page conversion or like waitlist conversion. So that's where I spent my time and energy. And I was like, oh yeah, I now can be like, yeah, it's really easy for me to like get traffic or get reach. Interesting. Okay. Check. Like it just feels clear and it feels like it was like a worthwhile time spent last year. So that helps a ton because it feels like the things you're working on matter and they make a difference and they're worth it and they're pointed towards your goal. So I would do that if I were you. Like, keep it simple. Again, you could just like write out, like, here are the 5 steps, here are my benchmarks on that, and run with it. It's like, could be that easy. And honestly, I think it's such a great guide. So I hope that helps. If y'all have questions, let me know. And that's all I got for you today. So I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for being here. Lauren, thank you for being my data hype girl. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, y'all.